drawing change. He's based in Vancouver, and he is passionate about solving complex problems and creativity. And Sam is going to talk to us. He's going to do a straight talk for 45 minutes. Isn't that right, Sam? And then we're going to go into breakout rooms, and we keep an eye on the time. And if you, well, Sam, you can tell us about when people can ask questions. If you want to put them in the chat, we'll keep an eye on that. And the session will be recorded. So if you have any objections to that, please let us know. Turn off your camera, change your name. And Sam will be sharing the slides which will be on the members site for you to access afterwards. Okay, Sam, it's over to you.
Thank you so much, David, and thank you, Raina, for all of the work to bring us together. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to fellow facilitators. So my name is Sam Brad, and I'm in Vancouver, Canada, and I'm joining you today from the unceded territories of the Indigenous people who are here, who are the Musqueam, the Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh. And by acknowledging the land today, what I want to say is the folks that have been here have been here since time immemorial, and I am grateful to be here as a settler and an uninvited guest doing my work. And as somebody who is an art and cultural producer, I've also learned a tremendous amount from the people and their traditions. So I come with a little bit of humility, and that humility also is talking to fellow facilitators. So here's a couple of caveats. I am not a marketing expert. I just found out that Raina has a degree, a master's degree in marketing, and all of the people in this room have superpowers. You all have superpowers, but I think the trick with this is the idea of being authentic and finding out how to tell our stories. So I'm here to kind of get the conversation going, to share a few things that maybe have worked for me, but in no way am I actually like a marketing professional. I hung out with some this week. There's a lot of things to learn. So this is going to be kind of like a high level overview, but what I love about the work that I do is I actually love sharing it. And so the passion that I have for facilitating, for doing graphic recording is also about sharing the work. And that's the energy that I want to bring into the part about marketing. So here is the plan for the day. We're going to do a little bit of my presentation. I'm going to let you know what I do as a graphic facilitator and as a facilitator with groups. I've got 10 kind of major points. And then we're going to do a bit of paired work and lots of chance for Q&A. So it wouldn't be a meeting without probably post-it notes or using the chat. And so in the chat, can you let me know, I was prompted by facilitator Janet Ward this morning on Twitter. Can you let me know when you think about marketing, what's the first thing that comes to mind for you? And I appreciate Janet for that question. So when you think about marketing, what's the first thing that comes to mind for you? And it could be like something that makes you nervous, something that makes you excited. Let's just kind of get those ideas out and we'll put them into the chat for now. We'll read a couple of them out loud. Yeah, unnecessary evil, reaching out, another full-time job, interesting and tiring, customers, strenuous, communicating value, advertising, knowing how to communicate, ongoing relationships, totally. All of these things. David and I were joking this morning that welcome to the marketing department, welcome to the finance department, welcome to the facilitation department. We all, when working for ourselves, have to wear all of these hats all at the same time. Yeah, definitely. Finding your voice, difficult to know when you're done. Yeah, boasting, that's like that careful line, right? Like, how do I know I feel good about what I'm sharing? Absolutely. So this is great because we're definitely in the place where marketing for non-marketers. All right, let's jump into this. So this is me. So there are also graphic facilitators in the audience today. And so if you've worked with one or if you are one, I want to acknowledge all the other people out there who also are using creativity. But basically my job is to use visuals to help groups work on big, complex problems. Sometimes it looks like this, where I'm listening deeply and then visualizing for an audience, maybe at a conference or a big event. And we know that graphic recording kind of has this magical quality to it. It makes a difference because we can synthesize information, help people retain it. It can start conversations and it can keep that conversation going. Sometimes it also looks like facilitation where I'm talking and leading a group through a process. And I think at the core, what's really important is, again, it's this idea that we are helping groups to unlock what's already there. We're helping to tap into their potential. And for me, that is also about their creativity. So obviously during this pandemic, things have really changed and all of us are now working almost completely online. And so the graphic recording also has moved to the digital space. I've got all sorts of fancy technology, some low tech technology, including iPads, a big drawing tablet, paper, pens, all to help groups be able to do this, even though we're on Zoom. So live graphic recording might look like this. And I'm showing these slides because I want you to know kind of what I'm marketing as well. I also help groups develop their strategic plans. So, 30 facilitators in a room, 30 different specializations around facilitation. Mine really is around working with the nonprofit sector, the public sector, around purpose, mission, vision, values. That's often where I'm doing a lot of my facilitation work with groups. So designing agendas, having interviews, helping groups figure out what's the best path to get there. And then afterwards, we can come up with visual strategic plans to help them communicate that information going forward. I also do quite a bit of knowledge translation, which is a bit different than facilitation, but it is really related to marketing. So I wanted to show a couple of examples. So I've had the real privilege of working with the World Health Organization for many years now, back when the emerging and infectious diseases team was probably a little bit smaller. And now the team is quite a bit bigger. So when we mean knowledge translation, there's lots of, complex, scientific, detailed information that needs to make it to a public facing audience. And so when I think about KT products, I think about marketing and messaging and putting the audience first. When it comes to facilitation, some of the visuals that we also kind of layer into the agendas are things like visual agendas, super straightforward, much more dynamic than just a Word document. Obviously, it takes more time, but again, we're trying to add value and show people what else is possible when they first land in the room. So when they first get here, they know it's going to be a different experience because they're going to see it right on this agenda. So this was drawn by colleague Karina Nilsson. Okay. Yeah, and sometimes drawings live have limitations, can't edit things as well. And so the idea of illustrations that are developed or iterated could be things like models, illustrations for complexity, other kinds of strategic planning documents. So just an example of that one as well. So here I want to kick off with just saying there's probably a voice inside at least one other person's head that's like, I'm not good at this. I don't know what to do. I'm a little bit uncomfortable. And I want to put this into the context of doing this work around equity and around justice, because there is also the idea of perfection and urgency and defensiveness and like, I'm the only one, power hoarding. All of this creates what we also call the characteristics of white supremacy culture. So really traditional organizations of all sizes, led by called snow-capped mountains, snow-capped organizations, lots of people who are white and holding lots of privilege at the top. So let go at the idea that this has to be one way and only by you, and you have to be perfect at it. We can do the opposite of all of this when it comes to our marketing. We can share power, we can hold more than a duality, and we don't have to be defensive. We can do experiments instead. So let go of all of the little critics for now and think about something that could be different. Because here's the thing, I think that I have something important to offer to clients, not to everybody, but probably to the people that want to work with me. And for us to find each other, I'm gonna need to tell them that I am available. So here are my 10 tips. First, share what you know. So this is called an inventory of your knowledge areas. What are the kinds of things around the content that you want to put out there? This could be something simple like a blog where you share your expertise, other kinds of writing, newsletters.
Oh, you're looking for Terry, AJ? I think he's in the front.
Great. I hope Terry is found. The second might be sharing some tips online. So we'll talk about different platforms for that. But for example, I really try to focus on helping people have better meetings. And so sharing what I know around that, even if it's something small, there's lots of people who haven't explored that part of it yet. And then eventually sharing what I know. I do lots of teaching. And so teaching in order to also help me learn as a practitioner, because we know that when we give things to people, we also gain quite a bit, and that helps to grow the field. So on the Drawing Change website, there's a section for ideas and resources. And so short articles, sometimes they're co-authored, sometimes guests come in to write, but the idea of just sharing your wisdom doesn't have to be super fancy. Number 2, this is a great acronym. I forget where it comes from. It's called COPE, Create Once, Publish Everywhere. And so the idea is you make one thing and then you transform it into a variety of tools and assets. So for example, if I did a long blog post around how to Zoom better, way back in the beginning of the pandemic, we figured out a whole bunch of things around Zoom. How can that blog post become other things? Or if it was a podcast first, how could the transcript of that podcast become different things? So maybe it becomes a transcript, maybe it becomes a poster, maybe it's a slideshow or a carousel on Instagram. And the reason you want to do the COPE, the Create Once, Publish Everywhere, because you want to think about where your audience is going to be. Not everybody listens to podcasts. Not everybody's on LinkedIn. You want to go to where your audiences are. New audiences, but also where you know that the people that you're speaking to already are ready for you. So here's an example of a COPE that I did over a couple of years. So the book was the big thing. We did this beautiful anthology about visual practice. And then about, maybe 6 months to a year later, we realized that the chapter that I had written with IAF facilitator Jennifer Shepard and I would be fun as like a pocket-sized book. So it's the same chapter. You can get the chapter on our blog. You can get the chapter in the real book, but it's really fun to have a formatted thing that you can put in your facilitation kit or in your pocket and open it up at any time. So this idea, create once, publish everywhere. Social media, number 3. So I spend a lot of time on social media, and I'm sure lots of folks do too. When I should also say that right now, I'm not monitoring the chat. So if there are questions in the chat, I've got my full screen up right now. So I'm just gonna stick to this and I'll happily look at the chat in a few minutes. All right, so social media. Here are my kind of high level suggestions. Choose a limited number of platforms. New platforms come out all the time. I haven't even tried Clubhouse yet. I'm barely looking at TikTok, but choose a limited number of platforms, again, where you think your audience might be, and then be consistent. So that means making content that has a specific scope and posting regularly. Doesn't mean you have to post every day, but you do have to be consistent. That way, the audience that you're working with will know how to come to you, and you'll build a bit of a library there. Scheduling your posts and scheduling your content is really important for your own peace of mind, for planning things out, for making things look and feel a certain way. And so there's all sorts of scheduling tools that will help you. There's Planoly for Instagram. There's things like Hootsuite for monitoring multiple things at once. But the idea of scheduling is key because you can sit down and be focused, maybe spend 4 or 5 hours over the month, kind of all at once. And the part about being careful is you still need to have the human touch, because if there is big news happening, especially big news that impacts your audience, you don't want to be walking in with your business card in the middle of that, right? Imagine that social media is a real audience, 200 people, 1,000 people are around. You don't just walk in without listening. So this idea of scheduling, but be careful, right? Otherwise, brands and people can make missteps. That's also related to listening more than we talk. So whenever I'm in a new place, I spend way more time listening than I do sharing. And that's because I'm learning what people might need from me. I'm learning what the nuance is in that community and what people expect on different platforms. Facebook and Twitter operate very differently. For example, same with LinkedIn. We're not going to post memes on LinkedIn. Probably Facebook is much more personal. So listening more than you talk is also it's a very good tool around equity in general, speaking as a white person. And this last part is about picturing a real person. So I have to say that I have a couple of friends that I picture when I write. I picture them because they are not the client necessarily, but they're like a composite. They're an archetype of somebody that I want to relate to. Christina, I write to you when I write on the internet. I want Christina to know what I'm talking about. I think she's super smart. She's creative. She has a job that values facilitation, but she doesn't work in facilitation. I want her to understand when I'm writing. And so when I think about, is this too much jargon, for example, or am I going down a rabbit hole that really, it's way too niche? I think about, if she reads this, what's she going to say? So here are some examples of things on Instagram. Again, pick your platform. I picked Instagram to show today. So Instagram leads with visuals. Here's Malgosia on the left. You can see that she's really done a beautiful job of making one gorgeous image that spreads across 3 screens. I really thought was just beautiful to look at. And then Ink Factory, fantastic graphic facilitation, graphic recording company in Chicago. Again, they're splitting their work up into multiple images. And here's a trick as to why. These are called carousels. So if you're on Instagram and you're flipping, the algorithm wants you to stay on the platform longer. So the more you flip, the longer your eyes stay there, the better Instagram wants to reward you for that behavior. So this idea of putting multiple images per post can help with that. Okay, so we're joined today in the room by Beth. Hi, Beth. Surprise, you're in the PowerPoint because I think you do such a great job with your social media, again, on Instagram. So this is a great example of thinking about your client and knowing your audience. And so Beth has this great Instagram where there are these bite-sized tips. Not only does the whole feed look consistent and beautiful and nicely colored, and you can see her, but you can also just learn something every day. And so that's a really different approach to a social media account, like the teaching and the sharing, very different than just pictures of what you were doing or pictures in a room of the chairs or the participants. So I really feel like those 3 examples add value. So it's marketing, but they are adding value. I'm learning something with the sketch note from Ink Factory. I'm enjoying this like beautiful format and the pacing from Malgosia's images. And with Beth, obviously, I just learned some awesome tips. So if you're feeling a bit overwhelmed about the social media, here is my go-to tip. It's the 30-30-30. So 30% is sharing your work. 30% is resharing other people's content that's relevant to you. So if I shared Beth's, for example, that would be, or if I shared the IAF's recent post, for example. So resharing content, it contributes to community. It's a great reflection and other people will then share your work. It really, it's the reciprocity, and social media is actually about that 2-way communication. So commenting, sharing, retweeting, engaging, it can't just be like, hi, here's me, hi, here's me. It really has to be like you're talking to real people. And then the rest of it is for fun. So probably for me, that's gonna be the dog. You're gonna see the dog on things. Maybe it's gonna be a little bit about the news or current events or topics that are relevant to the clients and the sectors that I work with. So 30-30-30. You can experiment with different percentages for that. Don't worry about the last 10.
Can I ask a question, Sam? It's a question in the chat. It's kind of
yes.
Do you have someone taking care of your social media for you, or do you do it yourself?
I do it myself. Yeah, I do it myself. I'm looking at better skills and being able to outsource some of that to other people. I have worked with some coaches and some marketing experts to learn things along the way. And one of the benefits of being a graphic recorder is often we're in sessions where people are teaching other people about stuff. So I have learned along the way. And there are also courses out there. I haven't taken courses, but the director of operations who works with me is currently in a course on social media. So that's also a great option. So if you're thinking about outsourcing or upskilling around that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for the question, because yeah, I've got my nice big screen up. So all right, here we go. Other tips. Put yourself in your client's shoes with your social media. What problem can you solve for them? And this last thing is that mini PowerPoints seem to be back in fashion. So if you've seen some really beautiful images on Instagram or Facebook, they're gallery images. It's almost like someone did them in Canva and then posted them online. They're back, which is great. So it used to be only things of pictures, but really now almost all platforms are being used to communicate more information out. So thinking about how, again, create once, publish everywhere. These are some other examples. Number 4, you have to be you. You have to be you. I am not going to be for everybody. And so I'm learning this new boundary called not everyone has to like me. And this comes after many, many years of facilitating and knowing the groups that are going to resonate with me and where my skills best lie. And so I have been facilitating for over 20 years, but really my strengths are in the public sector, the nonprofit sector, working around issues of equity, sexuality, gender, health, public health, education, and the environment. Like for me, that's where I'm really comfortable. I understand the issues and I understand what I don't know. You know, what I'm okay at, but obviously could love to grow in that area. KPIs, ROIs, meetings that talk about Q1, Q2, Q3. These things around agile, there are entire experts that facilitate around that. So I want to make sure that in my service business that I lead with trust. And so if I can communicate what I know and that I know, again, with humility, what I don't, that's going to help clients find who I am. At the beginning, when I began facilitating and a little bit of graphic recording, I was like, I can do more for everybody. And the older and longer I focus, it becomes much more specific. So that's about being authentic, and it's about letting people know who you are and the social location that you bring, the experiences that you bring to your work. And so when I think about being authentic, it also is like you should do things that you like. And here are some of the things that you might like. It includes maybe more writing, infographics, original research, maybe a podcast. I hate making videos. I don't mind public speaking. I like speaking on Zoom. I have not figured out how to really embrace online courses and YouTube. So you should do things that you like. And I think then the joy that you've got is going to shine through. This is also about being authentic, is having a consistent brand. So big shout out to the stock photos from Disabled in Here. This is a community-led project, and you can check out this beautiful gallery at affecttheverb.com. When we talk about marketing, everybody thinks that it's about a logo. A logo is not the only thing about marketing. So a consistent brand is about your logo, the text, the copy, the way you write it, the voice, the images that you use, all of that, the color, all of that is about the brand. So if folks come to me and they're like, Sam, can you draw me a logo? I'd be like, are you actually looking for branding? And then being able to steer them to people who can open up a much bigger conversation about marketing. Amy Walsh has a fantastic business around this, the Bureau of Tactical Imagination. So if you're interested in somebody that might, that might help kickstart some great questions around what branding can look like for creative people, Amy Walsh and the Bureau of Tactical Imagination might give you some fresh thinking there as well. Okay, online portfolios. So, you know, I work in a visual sector, like a visual kind of slice of facilitation, and the work that I do lends itself really easily to an online portfolio. But what I want to say is, please highlight your best work, not all of your work. especially if you are also making a transition in your career or a transition between sectors, or you're done with X and you want to move into Y. There's, I think, a temptation to show everything that we've done because it will show consistency, or like that I've been doing it for a long time. It's confusing is what it is when you share things like I make posters and logos and I have all of these other things. And no, I want to be known for a very narrow amount of service offerings. When you think about this, I want you to think about drawing change. And so sharing what you want to attract and not just the past work. I think that was a big thing. And it means that I have to like let go of a ton of beautiful stuff that I've made that no one's going to see on the internet. And that's just part of it. So highlight your best work, have a great website, make sure your website is mobile friendly. It is absolutely paramount. And then you can use best accessibility practices as well. So friends over at Crowley & Co. have a great services page. These two things, super clear, graphic recording and digital graphic recording. Really like good copy, it's thinking about the client in mind. Accessibility features, here's my friend Christina who built the website. Yeah, just thinking about how to make this really easy for people, no matter what device that they might be on. Here we go. Sorry, slides are clicking. Okay, number 5, helping other people succeed. So, you know, facilitators who are part of a membership organization, I think you already know this, right? The stronger our networks, the more we're all going to help rise the tide, float all the boats. So helping other people succeed, it's because we're all interconnected. So here are some of the ways that you might want to think about this. So sharing some writing, collaborating on projects, having strong networks and relationships, referring work back and forth to each other, and then thanking people like, oh my goodness, I got a handwritten thank you card in the mail from someone a couple weeks ago because I had sent her a project that was really much more in her wheelhouse. And she sent me a card and I thought about that for like 2 weeks. Giving back professionally, and then deliberately thinking about mentoring and how to share and exchange with other people. These are all great ways to help other people succeed. And I think that it is also connected to marketing. So when you grow the field, we communicate more and then everybody wins. So graphic recording exists, graphic facilitation exists since the 60s, really. But when we talk about it, when we share it, we create the demand for it. So I want everybody here to create the demand for amazing facilitation, right? I want to grow the field for like the best types of facilitation. So here's a couple of examples, folks. So thanks, Rosanna, for all of the work that you've also done, organizing, coordinating people. Yeah, I've been really involved with my professional association for a long time, event planning, conference planning. And then for many years, we've also had community scholarships at the Drawing Change workshops that also have an equity focus. And those are paid and in-kind positions as well. So how do you want to be known? How do you want to be known? Will it be wide and general? Will it be narrow and deep? Where is your expertise best used? And if that feels a bit overwhelming, what feels effortless? What do people keep coming to you for that just feels easy and fun and still challenges you and isn't the same old every day? So focusing on how do you want to be known as a facilitator, as a practitioner? Is it going to be the sectors that you work in? Is it going to be the types of projects? Are they going to be participatory large group projects? Are they going to be board, executive boards or small leadership teams, for example? How do you want to be known? Because there was this old story that I remember from my volunteer management days where it said, you know, if you're walking around outside and you see this sign and the sign says help wanted, that's all it says. Are you going to walk in and be like, yeah, that organization really wants me and my skills? No, you're going to be like, help wanted. Who do you want? What are you looking for? But that's often how we do call outs for volunteers. And often it's how we do call outs for people that we don't really understand what they do. Help wanted, come facilitate us. But if we can find instead how to communicate what we're looking for, and if the service providers can also communicate what we're available for, we're going to be able to meet people much, much easier and faster. This felt effortless. This felt joyful. This was at a conference in Denmark where me and my pal Brandy were teaching. It just felt like one of those moments where I was like, oh yeah, I was in my flow and I was here and I loved it. And so this photo reminds me of that moment, and it reminds me to just tap into that when I feel stuck or I'm wondering where I want to go next or what I want to deepen. So here is something that I also learned from many years in nonprofits, and specifically around fundraising. Make it a gift. If you can make things a gift, I think it can bring delight. So how can each interaction that you have with people be more like a gift? And this means it's going to be more high touch in some cases. It might mean that you need to automate a whole bunch of things, and so you have more time for the high touch things. But in general, there's a whole language out there around sales pathways. There are experts on that. Lead generation, the conversion rate. There's jargon. I'm not the expert. I'm sure people in this room will know a lot more about this, but just know that if you're interested in what does that look like, there is a funnel. There are words like conversion, but I try not to treat people like widgets so much, and I try to think about like a gift. So how do I want people to reach out to me? I'm on something like 8 platforms if you include the email and the website form. And if I had to look at all of my direct messages all day long, I would be very, very unhappy. I really want people to email me. I would like it if nobody phoned me ever again, but that's okay. You didn't hear it from here. I am not a phone person. I really love a letter. And so I really try to steer people towards reaching out to me in the way that it works. But of course, I'm going to pick up the phone. Of course I am. So that's part of the sales pathway, kind of like helping people find a clear way of getting to me as fast as possible. So their questions are answered. And then when they come to me, they're either ready at a different stage or they're ready with like a specific thing that I haven't answered. And then I've got something to send back to them, like an information package or a thing that answers their questions in a document, or a sample of all the strategic plans that I've done in visual form. Like I have a whole bunch of handouts that are possible. And I think that if you receive a beautiful thing back from somebody with a nice kind of like covering email, it can be like a gift. Oh, here you go. So leads, provide delight, provide that information, give people amazing service, and then follow up. So follow up can look all sorts of ways. I remember once I was working with a website company and I was hiring them for an earlier version of a website. And I think within a week of signing their contract, they had sent me this like adorable bag of popcorn, and it was something with like their name on it and a card, and it was something like like making magic happen, like we can't wait to pop something with, anyway, it was very cute, and they literally sent me popcorn. It was fun to get something at the beginning of the experience and not just at the end of the experience. So again, I thought about delight, I thought about a gift. Where can you best keep people engaged with you, so you know that you're going to provide great services? Number 9 could have been number 1, but that's because I'm not a marketing expert. You should set goals, and you should treat yourself like you would treat a client if you were leading a strategic plan. And so setting goals doesn't need to be like a full giant logic model, super stressful. You can set easy goals. You can set goals that are like 1 or 2 things. I like to work with adaptive actions. So the what, so what, now what? What can I try? What can I try? And then what will I observe from that in order to do something a bit differently with that information the next time? So setting goals, they could be SMART goals, for example. And I think you should focus on two things. Who's your audience and what's your budget? So who's your audience, of course, is going to help you focus. I think that's important. It's going to help you write the copy that's needed. And the marketing budget could be anything. I mean, you might want to invest in something like Google AdWords. It might be something like a paid account. You could hire some help. Thinking about a marketing budget, it could be free, except your own time. But really thinking about what is going to be needed, set that early. So some simple SMART goals could be, and I borrowed this one from a marketing company. So for example, real numbers and real deadlines, make sure it's trackable, feature work that is challenging, be honest, again, be honest, be authentic, and giving yourself a deadline. So maybe some of those things would translate into building a new website, being featured in local media, having X number of repeat clients. All that is part of marketing, right? Tracking and being able to measure, do people come back to you, right? And how? Expanding services, paid advertising, things like that. So I'm not here to say one is better than the other. I'm just here to encourage you to have goals that are then observable and measurable. And there's probably better ways of thinking about this, not just SMART goals, but this might be a start. So I'm open to hearing what other people think about what could be measured in that way. So building rapport is my last slide here. So allowing people to get to know you. So this is really about modern, transparent, online communication. We can't hide behind brands that don't let people know who we are. And so allowing people to get to know you could be anything. It could be about podcasting where you can tell stories. It could be about sharing what you know and teaching videos, all that stuff. But one of the things that I was surprised to learn as I was putting together this presentation was something as simple as an email list. And so an email list, I have to say, I don't use mine. I sent out one email last year, and my goal for 2021 is to get my email list back up and running, because there's something about a personal voice that lands in somebody's inbox that allows you to develop that relationship over time. So a client might really enjoy, learning about your thinking, sending out a couple of links. They're following you until they're ready to commit or they've got the right project where you are going to be in mind. And so by building that rapport and that voice means they're not going to call you for project X when you know that that's not a good fit. They're going to think, I have the perfect project. I'm going to call him early so I know he's available, right? They're going to be thinking about you ahead of time. So allowing people to get to know you. And so the last couple of things around that connection is just back to visual practice. And so for me, visual practice affects the way we feel. It affects what we understand and what actions that we take. I think people care when they see that their ideas matter. Information definitely makes more sense with visuals. And we can motivate people with it. We can show our call to action. Visual practice helps us understand each other. So this is me over here at Drawing Change, lots of different social media. And that was a ton of information. So top 10 kind of broad categories. And really now I have an important question for you, which is a what, so what question. So what stands out for you right now? What stands out for you right now from all of the things that you've heard? And the so what is, what might you try? What might you try? So I had said in the slide, it was going to be pairs. It's actually going to be trios. It's actually going to be trios. So Reina, yeah, we've got breakout rooms set up for trios. The questions are going to be what and so what? So what did you notice? And what might you try? And we're going to do breakouts for we will say, how about 12, we'll say 12 minutes, and then I'll review the questions in the chat in the meantime. And then when we come back, I will happily answer as many questions as possible. So I know that some folks may need to leave partway through. I hope that you can stay for a little bit of the the trio work, because I think one of the benefits is always getting to meet each other. So we'll do breakouts for 12 minutes.
Okay.
And the questions is a what and a so what. What did you notice and what might you try?
See you all in 12 minutes then.
Thanks.
Rosanna is okay. Good. Okay, good. So, well, there's two questions in the chat. One is heavier than the other. One is very light. What do you think of stock photo? That's one. And oh, am I on? No, I'm not. What do you think of stock photo?
Great. Welcome back. So I hope the breakouts were interesting and you got to talk to some people who you might not speak to as often. I would love to hear a couple of things about something that stood out, maybe an aha moment. And in general, you know, the guiding principle could be sharing from your own experience, not necessarily sharing the story of somebody else, or trying to make it as anonymous as possible if you don't have their permission to share it. But I would love to hear if there was any kind of aha moments from folks in the breakout rooms, or something that you're interested in experimenting with. So what?
It is my group, Zoa and Marie, okay if I just share a couple of points from our conversation? You get okay. I think we all sort of landed on this idea of focusing and, you know, narrowing a bit, and that it was actually okay to do that, and okay to not be everything to everyone, and not to have all my experience on my CV and all my, you know, that sort of, it's, you know, it's okay to actually focus and maybe say no to some things that are not in that window, or that thing that we really like doing. And for me personally, I was saying to the group, to the other two, I think I'm as old as their two ages combined. But, you know, I'm 58 and I'm like, I just want to do stuff that I'm good at, that adds a lot of value and that I really enjoy. And that might eliminate, because for me, I have 4 or 5 lines of business, that might really narrow in, and it's hard to let go of that.
Oh yeah, yeah. The saying no, 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 so you can make a really clear yes. Yeah, yeah. Thanks for reflecting that part back. Any other things that folks would like to share back? Any other noticings, moments? Could be super small. Yeah.
So we talked a lot about different things we could do, and bottom line, we decided we just need to get started.
Okay.
Let's get
Great.
started.
Yeah, that's totally, yes. Yeah, a small thing, right? Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
what's the what, now what? You do something and then you can reflect on it, yeah. Okay, so I saw a couple of hands. I saw Rita and I saw Ellen. Let's go Ellen first. How's that? Where'd Rita go?
We had a couple of conversations about some of us, bearing in mind there was only 3 of us, some of us liked creating the content and found that bit easy, and others found it easier to do the kind of like chatting and talking online on Twitter or whatever. And we had a really interesting conversation about who enjoyed or who was better at, you know, doing one bit or the other, and how actually if you combine those things it would be brilliant, but we all had sort of different skills, if you like, or different feelings for it.
Absolutely, yes. I wish I could be all the people. That's right. Rita, how about you?
I liked your 30-30-30. You know, I do post stuff on LinkedIn, but the one I think that really resonated with me is I don't reshare. And that really resonated with me, and I'm going to start doing that. So thank you.
Thanks. That's great. Yeah, and Dawn was saying, yeah, we liked COPE. Yeah, that is a great acronym. It was from a book. I forgot to Google it before I came in, the COPE one. Yeah. Yeah. And Beth sharing about the schedule for the month. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Any other thoughts about the group work, just while that's fresh? Okay, then I'm going to shift to some of the questions. And so you can, yeah, thanks. Feel free to pop in and out as needed. So we'll be here for the next 25 minutes or so. Yeah. Okay, thanks. Yes. Share what you want to attract. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so we had 2 questions in the chat from before. So I'll answer those ones first, and then we can open it up to more questions. So one was about stock photos, and do I have opinions about using stock photos? I think this is a really personal choice, and I would say it depends. And some of the criteria that I would use is it cheesy? Is it an authentic representation of the people in the picture? Is it like a woman eating salad, for example? Like why stock photo websites? Why? So thinking about making the photos represent the whole picture, the whole brand, and being authentic in that way, I think it's super key. So professional photography, though, makes a huge difference. So if you're not going to do stock photography, then investing in people who will take great photos of you makes a huge difference. Yeah, so I would say that part. Any other comments from the room around stock photography? That was a great question. Yes, a woman laughing with salad. Yes, that's the joke. Yeah. Yes, that's the joke. Why?
Funny salad.
Right, yes.
Various salad.
Okay, so so if that seems like good on the photography question. So then this one about how do people present or give out their cost structures? Is it public on websites or given out when you ask for, and someone asks for it? How do you price the gift? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I have to say this has changed for me over the years. I used to have way more, and I think it also depends on maybe like where you are, what country you're in, the norms around business and negotiating. I mean, I'm in Canada, and sometimes people would like a very direct answer. They're like, how much will this cost? What is the price range? And so me being able to give people a really clear price range really works for my clients. And I'm kind of like, you can have this, this, or this, and this is the range. But usually we do that over email because I want people to have the relationship with me in order to figure out a bit more. So for me, there's a web form, fill in your name, your email, where your organization is, and then there's a section for what is your budget. And I hemmed and hawed this year about like putting that in, and lots of bigger consulting firms, bigger organizations will have like, is your budget $2K and up? Is it $5K and up? Is it 10 to 20K? Is it 20? Like it really kind of sets like an expectation when the drop-down menu includes what the price range is going to start with. And so that's new for me in the last year, having kind of like a, what is your budget? And I have to say, I've been pleasantly surprised sometimes when people come in and they've told me that their budget was 5 figures, and I would have never guessed that because the email was short, or it was written like basically like somebody was thumb typing. It turns out they had $15,000 for a year-long engagement. I might have figured that out in the scoping call, but it was an interesting thing. So I would say there's lots of different ways to figure out pricing, and I would put it back out to people here. When you're shopping around for different vendors, someone to like fix your roof, someone to overhaul your website, service-based businesses, what works for you? What kind of expectations do you have? How much time do you want to invest in that negotiating if you have no idea what the price is going to be? Yeah, because some people are going to be like, I only have $500. And I'm like, well, then probably we're not going to be able to work together for what you're hoping if you only have $500. So let's figure that out early. Yeah. So other feedback on like, yeah, price ranges. I'm going to head to the chat, and also if you want to open up your mic and weigh in. So I'm seeing Dawn's hand. Yeah.
I'm right there with you, Sam, about I like offering packages and kind of giving even an a la carte menu and all. But I find with packages, I've been burned before, so I'll often say a maximum hours on that. And some people will question the hours, and I'll explain all the different things that could happen in those hours. But I've had a lot of clients think that means I'm really a full-time employee for them. So I have to kind of protect my hours. It's not as a positive thing to put in there, but it's something to protect yourself. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so that's like that classic, is it a flat rate project or is it an hourly project, right? And how do you scope and then put it into a contract? Contracts are going to be super key. I'm sure everybody here knows that part, but the advertising and the selling part is easy. And then making sure you have enough time and budget to do the work is this like follow-up part, right? It's like this, it's the other side of it. So yeah, so deciding, you have to have a certain amount of confidence around a flat rate project to make sure you can constrain the scope. If it's hourly and the client begins to kind of have mushy boundaries around things, then you can revisit that scope by talking about the hours. So sometimes packages are good, but only if you are super sure what you can do in that package amount of time. Yeah, so I see Ryan's hand.
Yeah. This is in context with you're talking about posting stuff on online platforms like LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, whatever. Is there a particular time of the day or week where you should put articles out or whatever posts out on these platforms? I heard from someone that LinkedIn should be done on Friday and so on and so forth. You know, I have no idea whether it's valid or just made up, or somebody's just trying to share something which they heard from somewhere. I have no idea about that.
Yeah, this is a great question. So every so often I will find an article and it will say like the best times to post. And I think it always changes. So I would say maybe there's two things. One, you kind of have to know who your audience is, because your audience might want to be reading things during the workday, or maybe they're only looking at Instagram in the evening when they're not at work, for example. So a little bit about knowing your audience, and that's about posting and then watching, right? Like posting and then watching the responses. And the other part is, I would say you can research to find out, are bigger firms, bigger marketing companies doing that research to kind of let people know? And that changes every year because the algorithms are always changing. So I don't have a clear answer. I tend to post during the day on Pacific time early, often in the morning, because I'm super early in the day for everybody on East Coast time and beyond. So that's where I know my audience is more likely to respond. Yeah. Great. Is it Javier? Great. Yeah, over to you.
Hi, thanks for presentation. It was great, super informative. And I feel like I need to do the 10 things all over again for my own brand. So it was a great scan of my own practice. So I'm I decided to start with this very, very recently. And I'm experienced in other fields. I'm a former fashion designer, but I really started with this. So what would be your advice about how you get your first clients, your first projects that validate in a way your portfolio? Because I have a portfolio that people are attracted to, but I don't have effectively actual practice. And on the same line of that, would you advise to have the first project for free, or offering like a trial with a new client and then maybe solidify after that?
Well, congratulations on launching a new version of the work that you're doing. This is great. And you're going to bring in a whole bunch of experience from what you were doing before, and it's going to translate in really beautiful ways, right? It's really different than somebody who's like, this is my first job. It's like a whole different perspective on that marketing, right? So I have a couple of opinions about working for free, and that we really shouldn't, as much as possible, work for free. So here's the thing. If you are looking for something that you can put in your portfolio and it's going to be a really clear win-win, then yes. And here are some of the reasons I would say yes to a project for free. And so I volunteered yesterday for an awesome organization. I had time in my schedule. I volunteered all day. It was about a zero waste project. totally felt great about it. And some of the reasons were because it was going to be awesome to work with like a huge team. 2, I liked the topic. 3, I could use it in my portfolio. And 4, I was kind of doing a friend who invited me like also a favor, and that felt really good because then I was introduced to some fun people. And so if I was going to have my very first project and I was going to do it for pro bono, I would have some good boundaries. I would let them know what the price is usually and why. I would still have a contract. I would really be clear about the number of hours that I was going to do this for. I would ask them for money. I would say that people take it more seriously when there still is an exchange of money, even if it's a nominal amount. A donation to a charity, a small, and there's something different when people are part of the exchange. And then in that contract, be clear about how you can use the work. Can you put it in your portfolio? Can you give it as a presentation to the board? Can you leverage this in multiple ways? Because otherwise you will have spent a lot of time developing your practice and learning a lot of things, but it will be limited and you actually won't be able to show other people. So when you say yes to free things, make sure that it's like the type of work that you want to attract more of. I think that would be sort of the free things. Yeah, and I would say, oh yeah, great things in the chat here. So yes, you're never starting from scratch. Lisa, did you want to share some of this out loud? There's some really good points here. Yeah.
Sure. I actually did a piece on LinkedIn about reinvention. And when, if you're over 5 years old, you have things to offer. You've got skills, expertise, and background that are valuable, regardless of how you're directing them, even if you're directing them in a new place, which is facilitation. So, just keep that in mind. Like, you're never starting from zero at this stage of the game. You have lots to offer. And, for your first client, getting your first client, that's your leverage. That's how you leverage everything else. And if you can, reach out to past clients who you've done other work for. They probably have some facilitation needs. You already have a relationship with them. They already value your skills, and just say to them. And that's how I got my first facilitation client, was just going to someone I had done communications work for in the past, and they trust me and said, hey, we actually do have a session and we're willing to give you a shot. And I probably offered it at a discounted rate. I don't agree with I agree with everything Sam's saying on the free side, but just to get my start, and so that I could now I could say, I'm a facilitator, I've done it. And then I started to leverage that.
Great. I see David's hand.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. There's 2 things I just discovered the other day, that in a contract, I just was looking around the contracts online. It's a French contract, and somebody had actually written into the contract that by working together, I can communicate that we worked together. And that's a choice. You could limit it to maybe the use of the logo or using the name, and that's one thing. So you're kind of asking it for directly. I have another friend in Florida who does a lot of, sales presentations and high price stuff. And sometimes he's challenged on his price, and in a funny way, but it's true. He says to his client, he says, the day I'm working for you is free. And the client will say, well, but $5,000, what's that for? Oh, he says, that's for the 20 years experience that's behind it. Which is funny, but damn true. So, if somebody doesn't want to pay you, just give them the crayons, or rent them the crayons.
Yeah. There was something in the I saw it on LinkedIn, and I totally agree with this. The reason I can do this work for you in an hour or create this report for you in 2 is because I have 20 years experience behind me, and you're not going to get that from someone who's going to maybe be in the biz 1 year and is going to charge you less. So that's what you're paying for. I totally agree, David.
I could just finish there. I almost forgot. It happened to me recently. I did a thing with the local chamber of commerce about revisiting your digital strategy, and a silly little thing, and it's always the silly things that matter. She said to me, have you done the recommendations on LinkedIn? And I said, no, I haven't seen that. And I had 23 recommendations within 24 hours. I sent messages to people saying, oh, could you give me a recommendation, which I'm not very comfortable with, but it's there. It's a button on LinkedIn. And I had 23 recommendations, people going back 10 years. And I just shot off the messages, and I was quite surprised at how many I got. So that's a cheeky way. I'm not a believer in telling people I work for something unless I have the client's permission. But my contacts, they revealed who I work for with their recommendations. So it's a quick and easy way. And, leveraging that by copying it out and putting it on little places, whatever you want, Cope, and that happens automatically. And the lady who had me on this is the strategy lady, she said to me, she says, maybe you could have held back a little bit and just published one a week. I said, well, come on, so, because it's a bit suspicious. So
that's also good feedback. Okay, yeah. I see Don's hand.
So Javier, just my first facilitation, I was a co-facilitator with somebody I considered a mentor. And by you just letting us know today, we all know now to think of you if we need somebody to help us. And that might be a great way to help you start. So thought I'd share that.
But it's not free.
That's but it's true. It's very generous, Don, right? To think about, you have to tell people that you're available, and you have to tell them what you want to be available for, right? So that's that part about like the non-creepy marketing part. Yeah. Javier, is your hand up again, or is it from before?
Sorry, very quickly, because I don't want to monopolize the Q&A with a free thing. But in my experience, first of all, I think that working for free is in a way disloyal to my colleagues in the sector, even if I don't know people, because why would I take the place of someone else that maybe has equal or even more experience than me? So first of all, I'm not making apology, I like apologizing about it, because I think it's dreadful. And also in my previous life, professional life, in my experience, people asking for work for free is a really low energy. So usually they promise something that never happens, it's messy as a process. So to me, it's not a good vibe at all. I mean, it's almost like a sign, like a red flag saying, okay, maybe this is not a good fit for me. I just wanted to share that with the group. Thanks for the feedback, everyone.
Totally. And energetically, it's a super important thing, right? Because then we begin to feel resentful. Or if you get asked for a great paying gig on the same day that the free thing is happening, you're like, what? And then energy comes right down, right?
Yeah,
for
absolutely
sure.
right. Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah. All right. I'm just, seeing if there's other questions. It could be about marketing, could be about pricing, could be about something that you're thinking about trying next. Thanks. Okay, yeah, book recommendations. Excellent. Yeah, one of the books that I'll share also is and now he has lost. I will follow up. I will follow up after. Yes, David C. Baker. Yeah, David C. Baker is a marketing expert who I've learned quite a bit from his books and his blog as well. David C. Baker. Yeah. Here we go. Yes, thanks so much, Lisa. Thanks for the contributions, everyone. Yeah, Seth Godin. Yeah, lots of books by him too. Yeah, I would say, maybe we can, last couple of minutes, we'll wrap up a few minutes before the 1:30 so people can get to their next meetings or depending on your time zone, perhaps a glass of wine at the end of a day. So I know folks are well spread out. Absolutely. Yeah, this would be a great opportunity to share other resources, for example, for facilitators. So Rita's got one in the chat here. It'd be a great chance to just let people know what you're up to, other things. So this is great. Zoom tips. Rita, would you want to share something out loud about it? Why people should definitely come?
Yeah, sure. So I'll be talking about, and some things people may already know, but I'll be talking about like self-select breakout rooms, spotlighting, virtual seating charts, and the new feature that they just launched called Immersive View. So just, tips that will help you take your facilitation on Zoom to the next level, and things that I have learned over the last 14 months teaching a lot and facilitating a lot over Zoom. So sharing my knowledge and experience. So it's on Tuesday, 12 o'clock Eastern time. And I put the link in the chat if you want to sign up and attend. And I would love to see all of you there.
Oh, that's great. Talk about fantastic, seeing an opportunity to share one of the gifts, sharing your talent. So thank you. That's so great. I hope that people get to come. Yes, see you there. So one of the questions was, will my slides be shared? Yes, they will be on the IAF website. Absolutely. Does anyone else have things coming up that would be beneficial for other facilitators to know about? Can share in the chat, and then I'm going to pass it to David after that, because David's going to help close us out. So I'll just scan one last time for anybody who's got other trainings or workshops or volunteer things for the IAF that might be good to make those announcements. All right, I have to say, this has been an absolute pleasure. I have learned a ton from the questions. Thank you so much. I'm going to pass it back to David.
Okay, thank you, Sam. Thank you, everybody, for your questions, your comments, your contributions. I'm glad to say that we have Richard Deiter here as well in the audience, who will be our presenter on June the 3rd. Richard, would you like to make yourself heard and give us a quick
Yes, it's been great today. Thank you very much, Sam, for that talk. And it's given me a bit of inspiration for next time, which there we are. You've set the bar pretty high for me. Next time, the plan is I'm going to be talking about facilitated writing. So obviously, great company with facilitators. What about the writing? And I come from more of the writing background, and I've been getting into the facilitation, and I'm trying to bring the two together. And I think it's going to be very fruitful, very interesting. And often I talk to people who say, I've got a bit of a writing block, or, it's just not so easy to get the ideas out. I think, Sam, you mentioned that phrase. So how do you get the ideas out? How do you get people to write? And facilitated writing is a great way of doing that. And that's what I'll be talking about next time.
Thank you, Richard. Yes, and I've been through some of Richard's workshops, and they're quite introspective. They're great. Okay, well, thank you, Sam. I'm going to revise the 10 points and look forward to receiving the PowerPoint, and we'll have that up on the website, I might say, in about 24 hours. Raina, what do you think?
Yeah, we can send it over. Yeah.
Yeah, whenever it'll be up there very quickly. All right, so listen, see you all on June the 3rd, 1800 hours Central European time.
Thanks, everyone. Have a
Thank
great.
you, Sam. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you
Bye.
very much. Bye.
Take care.
Thank you very much. It was great.
All right. Great.
Thank you. Bye.
Do you want to hang on, Richard, or?
Yeah, well, I don't know. Just